Governments everywhere are busy rolling out antibody testing programs. Antigen tests, which involve taking a swab from the nose or throat, simply show if someone actually has the coronavirus in their body. Antibody tests involve taking a blood sample and looking to see if the body contains antibodies which respond to the virus. If you have antibodies in your blood, then you've had and have overcome the coronavirus. The blood sample will be sent off to a laboratory to be tested, and this, I suspect, will be a much bigger testing program than antigen testing. Governments are planning to do millions of antibody tests on their populations. And the key word here is blood sample. Because when you take a blood sample, you can, of course, easily take a DNA sample. You can take DNA samples with other body tissues, but blood's very easy. If that doesn't strike terror into your heart, then I'm afraid you haven't been paying attention over the past few weeks. Since March 2020, governments everywhere have been tearing up the traditional values which we used to take for granted. Freedom, privacy and democracy are now just a memory, a thing of the past. Most people in the Western world are now living in police states. The emergency bill, which was passed by the British government in March, gave British politicians and civil servants much the same sort of power over the people as the Patriot Act gave the authorities in America. We might as well be living in China or Russia for all the freedom we have these days. And don't kid yourself that the governments will give back all that power in a few months' time. Governments never give back power. So, to get back to your DNA, if you trust your government to always do the right and decent thing, then you can switch off now. I envy you your innocence and your faith. I suspect, however, that most people have by now lost what little faith they had in their government and its advisors. I've shown in other videos how we've been lied to, tricked, manipulated and brainwashed. We have been deliberately terrorized. I think I've had the coronavirus, and if I have to have an antibody test, I expect the government will also take my DNA. And I expect them to store it, along with your DNA and everyone else's DNA. The next big question is, what will they do with it? And again, this is a question of trust. Do we trust them to store our DNA so that they might be able to use it to help us one day? Sadly, if we believe that, then we're well into tooth fairy land. I think governments everywhere will take our DNA and store it, and I think they will sell it. Governments at all levels have a track record. They sell every bit of information they can collect. They've been selling information about voters for decades. They sell census information. They demand and sell all sorts of confidential information. And they flog it to anyone prepared to pay the right price. In the UK, the National Health Service has been collecting information about us all for years. To begin with, they promised that they wouldn't sell the information. They actually gave us an option. If we didn't want them to sell our private medical information to drug companies, then we could say so, and they wouldn't. Well, that's what they said, but I think you'll probably find that they sold it anyway, even if you knew that there was an option to ask them not to do so. Look on the NHS website at the moment, and you'll see that they say that the NHS collects confidential patient information from all NHS organisations and all private organisations providing NHS-funded care. They then flog this information to researchers, to the medical establishment, and, wait for it, because this is a good bit, to drug companies. They say that the drug companies won't use it for marketing or insurance purposes. And they presumably know that because the companies they sell it to tell them that they won't. And we all trust drug companies, so that's okay. There's still a get-out clause if you don't want them to sell your information, but to be honest, it's got more holes in it than a colander. The same is true everywhere. Private medical information is sold to anyone prepared to buy it. And this brings us back to your DNA. I don't think they'll be able to resist storing our DNA when they do antibody tests, and they will sell it. Of course they will. They'll say that since they took the sample, they own your DNA, and they'll flog it to drug companies, insurance companies, and anyone else who wants to buy it. Governments have already created biobanks with genetic material they took from screening tests. And now governments everywhere need huge amounts of money to pay for the coronavirus mess they've made of the world. Does all this matter? Well, I rather think it does. Drug and insurance companies will know everything about your body, and they'll be able to mix and match that with the information they buy from search engines, your bank, the supermarkets, and everyone else. The last vestige of your privacy will be gone forever. And they will use the information ruthlessly. As an aside, let me tell you that since my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer, both she and I have been bombarded with utterly unnecessary and inappropriate online advertisements for funeral services, cancer charities, and other goodies. I don't know who sold our information, but it doesn't really matter where they got it, does it? To say that I find it intrusive is to be considerably politer than I feel. I strongly suspect that we will have no rights at all over our DNA. They will, of course, pass our DNA details onto all police and security services. We can all trust them, can't we? Drug companies will use your DNA to predict what diseases you might develop, and they will want to sell you useful drugs to stop you getting whatever it is that they know you're going to get wrong with you. Insurance companies will use your DNA to predict your future. You will, perhaps, find that your premiums suddenly soar because your insurance company knows something about your future. Your DNA information will be used in conjunction with your credit card and bank information too, of course, and that will be so much easier when they get rid of nasty, grubby cash. And they will mix it with all the information you've put on social media and which you cannot erase however hard you try. Anything you put on Facebook, for example, belongs to Facebook permanently, as in forever. So you'll be standing at the checkout at the supermarket and the assistant will take the chocolate bar out of your shopping. What's the matter with that? You will ask, puzzled. The system says you can't have that, the assistant will say. She'll look at the screen in front of her. You're going to get diabetes, so you aren't allowed to buy chocolate. When you apply for a driving license, they'll tell you that you can't have one. Why not? You'll ask. Because there's an 82% chance that you're going to develop epilepsy next year, they'll tell you. You'll have no rights over your private information. Companies everywhere will be able to buy it, and hackers will be able to steal it. Hackers? Well, the woman in charge of Britain's track and trace system was in charge of a phone company called TalkTalk when hackers stole the personal information of 157,000 people. The company was fined massively for not looking after the information properly. Now she's in charge of tracking and tracing system and the collection of vast amounts of personal information. What can we do about it? Well, until they make it compulsory, I don't think I'll bother having an antibody test done. Thank you very much. You won't see me anywhere else than here because I'm banned by all mainstream media. I'm banned for the terrible sin of having been proved right too many times about a whole range of contentious issues which have embarrassed drug companies and governments. Please ask everyone you know to watch the videos or visit the website. Thank you for watching An Old Man in a Chair, and thanks for all your support. I've not authorised any ads or any sponsorship. You'll find more information about all sorts of topics on www.vernoncoleman.com, which is also free of ads and sponsors. And if you want to see more videos from me, then please subscribe to my channel, because for curious reasons, they aren't always easy to find. Let's spread the truth as widely as we can. Thank you for watching.